Melania, Donald Trump's dark past, it's resurfacing in ways it's his worst nightmare. Donald Trump went to a club in Manhattan called the KitKat Club, where there were parties that were frequently thrown for very rich Manhattan elites, businessmen. How did Donald Trump meet Melania? On or around the same time he was best friends with Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell.
Picture this, 1998. Melania walks into the famous KitKat Club, introduced to Donald Trump by a powerful modeling agent. But this wasn't a fairy tale meet cute. Far from it. What happened that night laid the groundwork for a story of power, influence, and deeply hidden secrets. Before we move on, I will like you to subscribe to the channel and like the video. If the KitKat Club could talk, it wouldn't whisper about fairy tales. It would spill enough secrets to fill a book, and probably a pretty disturbing one. Back in its heyday, this wasn't just another hotspot for New York's elite to sip champagne and pose for photos. It was the kind of place where the glitter of the parties masked a lot of shadows. Sure, there were billionaires and supermodels lounging around, but those gilded walls also saw power brokers preying on newer, vulnerable faces in the room. And who were the easiest targets in a place like this? Foreign models who came chasing the American dream, but wound up stuck navigating a maze where influence was currency and trust could be dangerous. And then there was Paolo Zampoli. You're not supposed to say someone ran the show in a figurative sense, but in his case, it feels like no metaphor is enough.
Melania was a model from Eastern Europe who was brought to the United States, who would attend these parties where the rich men would show up and mingle with the model. Melania's previously made posts about how proud she is of her nudes, but did you know that after Donald Trump and Melania met, she got what was called an Einstein visa? Right now, Russia, it's weaponizing Melania's past. I don't know if you know this, but on Russian TV, they frequently show Melania nude in order to mock Donald Trump.
Zampoli had connections coming out of every corner. He was a modeling agency exec with this almost mythical ability to pluck women from obscurity and throw them into glitzy parties like the KitKat Club with promises of opportunities waiting around every corner. But the opportunities weren't always what they seemed. Zampoli introduced these young women, many of whom barely spoke English, to rich, powerful men who weren't exactly putting together charity fundraisers. The promise was fame in exchange for smiles and proximity, but everyone in that room knew Zampoli wasn't just playing Cupid. He was playing chess with people's lives as the pieces. So let's zoom back to where Melania enters this story. September 1998, the KitKat Club. Zampoli played fairy godfather that night, introducing a relatively unknown Slovenian model to Donald Trump. At that point, Trump was already infamous for being, well, Trump. Wealthy, powerful, loud, and as subtle as a neon sign flashing "ego here." He'd recently separated from Marla Maples, but his love life was always less about romance and more about dominance. Trump took one look at Melania and decided she was next, and Zampoli made sure she was sitting right where Trump could see her. Did Melania aim to catch his eye, or was this just another piece moving exactly where someone else had placed it? You tell me, and here's a quote from Epstein that might make you want to throw something heavy across the room. "I inherited Trump, and Ghislaine inherited Ivana." The sentence is slimy on so many levels, it's hard to know where to begin.
She was treated like a genius, an exceptional achievement visa that gave her a fast track to become a United States citizen. This is 1997. How sweet. Trump's Brit of all, right? Just weeks after ditching his second wife, America's best-known billionaire Donald Trump has fallen under the spell of a 20-year-old English girl. This was before Melania, when he met London model Anuska DeGiorgio at a party in Manhattan. Several American millionaires already had their eyes on Anuska, but she was there with Robert Maxwell's daughter, Ghislaine.
He wasn't just talking about friendships or business connections. There's an air of transactions there, like people were being handed off as part of some behind-the-scenes agreement. Ivana, Melania, Marla. It's as if a web of relationships was being curated not by chance or charm, but to meet the needs of powerful men following their own rules. What's ironic, or maybe just plain unsettling, is how public narratives can twist these events into stories of romance and fate instead of the machinations of power-laden puppet masters. Because if you strip away the roses and the glittering cocktail dresses, the question stops being about Melania falling in love with Trump. It becomes, was this her choice? Or was this part of a bigger play, orchestrated by the people around her, maybe even without her full understanding? Whether she recognized it or not, stepping into Trump's world came with invisible strings pulled by powerful people who weren't interested in anyone's happy ending but their own. And from there, her life would never be the same. Why does Melania stay quiet? For someone who's been surrounded by controversy for years, her silence has almost become her signature move. But is it just about staying above the noise? Or is it about self-preservation? Let's start with the infamous Access Hollywood tape. You probably remember it, the 2005 recording where Trump casually bragged about grabbing women without their consent. A moment that would sink most politicians didn't send Trump's campaign into freefall, thanks in part to Melania's strategic response.
Donald Trump's out there doing that, and then Donald Trump's out there going to these parties at the KitKat Club to meet. This is separate than what I just said. This is separate. He's just going out there to meet, these young models. In 1997, he's out there partying with Epstein and Ghislaine. So Donald Trump goes to the KitKat Club, and let's just see the story as reported by the New York Times about how Donald and Melania met at the KitKat Club.
Instead of outrage or condemnation, she publicly brushed it off as locker room talk. That wasn't a defense, it was damage control. The message wasn't what he said was okay, but rather, let's not focus on this. We've got bigger things to sell. And what they were selling was the Trump brand. She knew that brand survival propped up her position, her lifestyle. Melania's response was as calculated as it was cold. Then came the Stormy Daniels scandal, which might have rattled any other first lady. Daniels, an adult film star, alleged an affair with Trump years earlier and shared, well, let's call it vivid details, about their time together. The public expected Melania to snap, maybe even publicly denounce Trump. Instead, her fury zeroed in on Vogue. Yes, the fashion magazine. You see, they dared amplify the affair narrative, which apparently offended Melania more than Trump's betrayal itself. According to Stephanie Winston Wolkoff, one of Melania's former advisors, her anger was aimed at the magazine, not her husband. Translation: the affair might have been embarrassing, but messing with her image was unforgivable. She wasn't about to let the media dictate her story, the story she's carefully sculpting for years. Again, not a moral outrage, just damage control, brand management, cold and clear-eyed. Now, could this long-game approach also suggest complicity?
They were linked by someone named Paolo Zampoli, who's become an ambassador under Donald Trump, a high-ranking government official. Melania arrived in the United States from Slovenia in 1996 for modeling work, and then she obtained her green card around 2001 based on her extraordinary ability as a model. So Donald Trump meets Melania at the KitKat Club, and then they develop a relationship with each other. And then let's talk about what happened.
Melania doesn't publicly rebuke Trump's actions. She shrugs off accusations and deflects attention from scandals as they pile up. She's let viral stories unfold, knowing that staying quiet might leave people questioning, but it also ensures she doesn't add fuel to the fire. Take the Epstein case again. Public attention on Trump's relationship with Epstein was relentless, and people inevitably started asking questions about Melania's role in it all. Did she know? Did she benefit from the same networks? The silence leaves room for speculation. Sure, some might argue she's protecting herself from potentially disastrous backlash, but others might say she's staying quiet to keep doors open where they need to stay open. Here's where things get really interesting. Melania's silence isn't just a survival tactic, it's a weapon. While Trump's inner circle spends years screaming into microphones or getting arrested, Melania's quiet approach has been her shield. It creates a mystique, one where she can rewrite her role when the time is right. Think about it. If, down the road, the Epstein story gets even uglier, or Trump faces deeper legal troubles, Melania has given herself the flexibility to play a new card. Maybe she'll frame herself as a victim of circumstance, someone who endured it for the sake of her son or simply to escape later. It wouldn't be surprising if one day she re-emerged with a book or an interview, recasting herself as a survivor who managed to make it out of the Trump empire intact. So, here's the question that lingers. Is her silence survival or complicity? The truth probably sits somewhere in between. What's clear is that Melania knows what she's doing. She's mastered the art of saying nothing while saying it all. And as the Epstein case and Trump's wider scandals continue to evolve, you have to wonder, when Melania does speak, will it be to defend her past or to rewrite it entirely? Melania's story isn't the fairy tale it's been packaged as. It's a carefully built narrative shaped by power, influence, and control. Her silence on Epstein's case, once her safest weapon, now feels like a shadow following her everywhere. What does she know? What does she choose not to say? These questions aren't going away, and they're louder than ever. The truth is, we barely know the full extent of the stories spun by the elite. As more secrets unravel, one thing's for sure: Melania's final move will change everything. Will she speak up, or is silence still her best escape plan?